You're listening to Just Hit Play with your hosts, Peter and Nick Cabral. If you're tired of your stagnant, streamed music feed, then strap yourselves in for an intergenerational sonic journey through Peter and Nick's favorite songs.
Welcome to episode 64 of Just Hit Play. I'm your host, Peter. With me, as always, is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm hot.
Nice.
It's a heat wave right now. And I feel like I've lost maybe 10 pounds in sweat over the last 2 days. I don't have air conditioning. As I've probably mentioned on this podcast before, it's a real sore spot for me. And yeah, it's just not going very well over here. Got to drink a lot of water, trying to. And yeah, all the Australian listeners are probably listening to me saying, oh, this kid, he doesn't know. But it's tough. It's tough.
Well, we got the westerly winds this week, so it started yesterday, and it's dropped the weather down spectacularly. So I'm loving it. I'm wearing a jacket again, so this is fun. So this is my favorite time of year. Good strong winds from the west.
The Echo winds, right? That's what they're called?
The Echo winds, that's correct. Yes, because
Okay.
the Echo is on. Now, the Echo is also a place that if you want to get sick, you go to the Echo because it's pretty much a petri dish. So they're also, it's like a farm show. So they have cows and sheepdogs and sheep and stuff. So right now they're worried about the foot and mouth disease for cows and something called lumpy skin disease. So they're worried that the cows are going to get foot and mouth or lumpy skin. I don't know what lumpy skin is. I've never heard of that one, but I guess it has something to do with lumpy skin.
It must. Yeah. That's the only guess I can think of. And I just want to say that I could really use some Echo winds right now in southwestern Ontario. Could really, really use some.
Well, you're not that far away. September soon, my friend.
Yeah. Yep. Can't get there soon enough. And then when I move in September to Toronto, that place will also have air conditioning.
Where are you
That's
moving?
a win.
What town? What suburb are you moving to?
Basically, Little Italy.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Right off College, just west of Kensington. Yeah, on the main streetcar line, the College streetcar line. I'm very excited for it.
The last time I was in that area was a few years ago, and that's where Augusta Street is not that far away. That's where Little Portugal used to be. Where as a child, my parents would take us there, and you'd buy Portuguese delicacies that you couldn't find in Mississauga. And I went back to Augusta Street, and it's pretty much gone. There's Little Portugal's, maybe it's a restaurant of Portuguese descent. That's pretty much it. The diversity is gone. Now it's just, well, let me rephrase that. The Portugueseness is gone. Now it's just the diverse neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. That sounds about right. Honestly, that tracks. What I found funny is when I drove around the neighborhood I'm going to be living in, which is called Little Italy, there's a lot of Portuguese stuff there. So maybe some of the Portuguese restaurants and stores migrated to Little Italy.
Yeah, well, you have in that general area, you have Little Italy, you have Chinatown, you have, the Augusta Street, which is like Portuguese part of town. So you have a lot of ethnicities in that one area.
Yeah,
it's a
really
fun
nice
area.
part.
Yeah, it's a really fun area.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that move and living in downtown Toronto. Very excited.
Yeah, I'll come and visit you because I'll be there in November. So I'll come and hang out with you for a couple of days, and we can go have a drink.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. I'll scout some locations before you get here.
And maybe record a podcast while we're there.
Yeah, we'll have to do an in-person live recording.
Yeah, exactly. And in our Brisbane studios is Darren. Darren, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. You enjoying the weather?
Yeah, it's nice and sunny at present, and I'm not outside in the wind, so I'm happy.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, Nick, you're continuing my education on New York rap. And we have a good one this week. So tell me about the song you're getting me to listen to.
Yeah, so this week we've got Brooklyn's Finest. It's off of the legendary Jay-Z's very first album, Reasonable Doubt, which was released in 1996. And it's one of the very few collaborations that exist between Jay-Z and Biggie Smalls. As the name suggests, they're both from Brooklyn. But Jay-Z started coming up around the tail end of Biggie's life, sadly, so they didn't get to work together much, but this song shows the incredible potential that they had. And I think they're a duo that worked extremely well together. So, Darren, why don't you just hit play on Brooklyn's Finest?
Okay, I'm reloaded. You motherfuckers think you big time? Fucking with Jay-Z, you gonna die big time. Here come the pain.
Jigga, bigger, nigga, how you figure?
Yeah. Hey yo, peep the style and the way the cops sweat us. The number one question is, can the feds get us? I got vendettas and dice games against ass betters and niggas.
All right, so let me just say this from the jump. I think Jay-Z is one of the best rappers of all time. Full stop. This album, Reasonable Doubt, absolute classic. It's phenomenal. Stands the test of time. And the same can be said for Biggie in terms of one of the best rappers of all time. He's got one of the best rap albums ever. So this is a pretty special collaboration, I think. But what did you think of this song?
Yeah, first off, let me say that opening is very reminiscent of what 90s hip-hop was like. You had a lot of openings like that where there was gunfire or swearing or sound effects like that. So that's a very typical 90s hip-hop opening, which I kind of laughed at. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when hip-hop used to do things like that. Yeah,
Very Scarface reference, too.
yeah, exactly. So Biggie died in 94? Is that what you said? Is that...
Biggie died in 97.
97?
This song came out in 96.
Okay, I was going to say, because this might have been one of his last ever recordings. I thought he had died in 94. Okay. Yeah, it goes back to that hip-hop flex, doesn't it? Like, last week we listened to a very introspective song where Biggie was talking about how, his frailties and how he was, how he saw life sometimes. And this goes to the other side of the extreme. And this is the flex about how great they are, which is also a very hip-hop thing to do.
Absolutely. This album, Reasonable Doubt, it's credited with bringing the idea of mafioso rap to the forefront, which is talking about street life and hustling, but from a more luxurious standpoint, talking about driving around in a Lexus and drinking champagne, wearing suits. Basically, Jay-Z is credited with classing up gangster rap, you could say. And this song is a perfect example of that. A lot of it is, like you said, flexing and bragging about their exploits and how they run Brooklyn and how they're both so good. And nothing epitomizes 90s hip-hop like that.
Now, I've seen Jay-Z live. He opened up for U2 here in Brisbane, so I've seen him live. I think Beyonce was there, but she didn't perform. I think she was on tour as well, so that was kind of neat to see Jay-Z live. Weirdly, U2 promotes a lot of hip hop. Public Enemy opened up for U2. Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy opened up for U2. So U2 have definitely showcased a lot of hip hop over the years. So yeah, it's kind of neat that I've seen them live.
When was that? What year was that?
I'm thinking it was 2011, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy that Jay-Z was opening for U2 because, 2011, Jay-Z was a mega superstar by then, too. So That's very cool.
Yeah.
And what did you think of him live? I've never seen Jay-Z live.
It was good. Like I said, it wasn't... For me, I don't think of hip-hop in a stadium setting. Obviously, I saw U2 in a stadium because they're a stadium band. I think it was 50,000 people in a stadium. I don't think hip hop plays well to that kind of crowd. I think you need it to be contained or a festival. So yeah, it was good, but I think he got lost a little bit in the bigness of the situation.
Yeah, and also the demographics going to a U2 concert, probably not Jay-Z's main target audience. I mean, age-wise, possibly, but yeah, I'm sure there weren't a lot of diehard Jay-Z fans who could sing along to every hook and chorus. And
what's that
energy?
What's that New York song he has with Alicia Keys?
Empire State of Mind.
Yeah, that would have been the closing track because that's that's probably his biggest hit.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that's the song that everyone sort of knew and kind of sang to or clapped to.
It's funny you mentioned the idea of hip hop translating to stadium concerts because Kanye is actually the one artist who he's credited with bringing the idea of stadium rap what he did with his 2007 album Graduation. And I think it might have been when he was opening for U2, when he was touring with U2, Kanye, that is. He saw Stadium Rock and what it was all about and how it got the crowd going. And that gave him the idea to make his next album really anthemic and to feel really big when played in a stadium or an arena.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd say Kanye is one of the few rappers that his music now is stadium friendly, really big and expansive. Anthemic.
I'd forgotten that Kanye opened up for U2 as well, and he's got the ego for stadium rock. Or stadium shows. That's for sure. I think U2 is a very ego driven band as well. So I think he fits that criteria of the bigger than life sort of personality.
Exactly, and you need that sort of stage presence to really kill a stadium show.
Yeah, you have to. Like, obviously, I saw the Joshua Tree tour with your dad when I was 13, and that was at Exhibition Stadium. I think there was like 50,000 people there. And they should not have been doing stadium tours at that point because the technology wasn't there. If you think about Zoo TV and, the Pop Mart tour, they had like these huge stages with big screens and a lot more interaction with the audience. When I saw U2 in the first stadium, I loved the show, don't get me wrong, but it was just them on stage. There was really nothing to engage 50,000 people. You literally had to do it with the music, and which is fine. That's how stadium acts were forever. But I think it's evolved from there.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, on Kanye's 2013 Yeezus tour, he built a functioning volcano and put it in the middle of a stadium every night.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of the stuff you need to do nowadays
to,
like you said, engage that many people.
Yeah, I think the days of just being on stage with nothing, just the band and the artist, those days are long gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had a question for you.
Sure.
So obviously Biggie's dead, and he can't perform with Jay-Z live. And not only that, but a lot of hip hop artists feature other artists. So when you go see a show, and obviously they can't bring every single feature with them on stage because that'd be impossible. Do they play like recordings? Is that how they play when they play the songs? And if they do play recordings, how do you feel about that? Because to me, that's almost like seeing Britney Spears live, because Britney obviously doesn't sing, she lip syncs. So there is like a recorded element of the show. How does that make you feel? Does that take you out of the show?
That's a really excellent question, and something that I haven't thought about too much because it's normalized, I guess. Like, I've never thought of that as something strange, that you're just playing the recording of a feature. So I don't think it takes me out of it, because if anything, if it's a good feature, then the artist will just let it play, and then the crowd does like a whole sing-along part, which could be fun.
Yeah.
One of my favorite concert memories is when I saw Tyler, the Creator, for the second time. He has a song called Earthquake featuring Playboi Carti. It's a fantastic feature, really, really popular song. And yeah, being in the Air Canada Centre and just hearing like everyone in the building rap that verse at once, so cool. It's a great feeling.
That does surprise me a little bit, because not that you enjoyed the show, but that Tyler, the Creator, could play an arena. I guess that's the part that surprises me. I was like, I hardly know the guy, and he's filling an arena. I was like, oh, okay, the world has changed.
Yeah, his last two tours were both at the Air Canada Centre.
Really?
Yeah, he sold out Madison Square Garden a few times in a row. Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, that blows my mind. Maybe like I would go, oh yeah, I could see that guy at a barbecue. Maybe I don't know about a stadium or a hockey arena, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, so to fully answer your question, I don't think it takes me out of it. If anything, I hate when artists just skip over the feature. Sometimes they'll just move to the next song. If say the last verse on a song is a feature and that person's not there, they'll just skip it. And a lot of times I'm like, oh damn, that would have been kind of cool. Like it's a well-known verse, everyone likes that feature. It would have been cool to use a youthful phrase, turn up to that part of the song.
Right. I guess too, and now that I think about it, if you're, say, at a Tyler the Creator concert, not at a barbecue, but at a hockey arena, and you're listening to the song, then all of a sudden Playboy Cardi actually is there, that must be quite a pretty cool feeling, and it must bring the house down as well.
Right, and that does happen.
Sure, yeah.
I wouldn't say all the time, but at a lot of concerts I've been to, it'll be like, oh, surprise, this person's here now. Like,
Yeah.
happens all the time. And like you said, absolutely brings the house down. It's a really special moment when it's a surprise like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I could see that. Yeah. So, yeah, that was just curious about that, because obviously if I was at a Rage Against the Machine show and Tom Morello wasn't there and they just sort of pumped in his electric guitar, I'd be kind of pissed off, because I do love live music being played live, not a recording.
Right. And I think it just goes down to the difference between a hip hop show and rock shows, or really any other genre that relies on live performance. Hip hop shows are much more for the vibes and energy for the most part.
You know, what's really interesting too is hip hop, because there wasn't a lot of money in early hip hop in the 70s and the 80s. It was just a DJ, a boombox, and a hip hop artist. Like, it was really bare bones how you could put a performance together. You didn't need drums, electric guitar, bass guitar. You didn't need any of that. They just went as economically as possible to put on a performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the times with the more lyrical rappers, that's sort of what it is. It's very minimal, bare bones. When I saw Freddie Gibbs in Buffalo in May, it was just a DJ and Freddie Gibbs on stage. That's it. There was lights, obviously, that lighting effects, but no pyrotechnics, no props, no set, and no backing track. Just rapping everything live. But the bigger acts, that's when you get to the theatrics, and there'll be recordings of their verses that they maybe rap half of the words along to. And yeah, it's just not the same.
Yeah, when I saw Outkast, it was a full band performing with Outkast. There had to be 20 people on stage performing with Outkast. It was definitely not, Andre 3000 and Big Boy. There was a lot of people on stage with them.
Yeah, when I saw Kendrick, he had a live band. Yeah, it's definitely not the norm. I'd say the norm is you just have a DJ pressing play on the songs, and you have the artist on stage with the mic, and yeah, they'll rap as much as they feel like rapping along to.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
It's kind of like lip syncing, but then they actually like do still rap some of it.
Wow. Yeah, see, that would piss me off.
But when you're in the mosh pit to it, though, and like the artist is like conducting the mosh pits and stuff instead, like that part's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like, and again, this comes from my ethics. I like the authenticity of it, which is a very old school way of thinking about things. But I just wanted to know when I listened to the song on YouTube, it didn't say that Biggie Smalls was on the track. And I only found out as I was like, okay, that sounds like Biggie. And then he introduces himself, or Jay-Z does. I was like, oh, interesting. He's dead. Like, how would he perform this song with Jay-Z in the future? So that's where that came from.
Yeah. Well, fun fact is that Biggie and Jay-Z actually met for the very first time in the studio session that this song was made. They didn't even know each other until they sat down to make this track, and they were introduced by DJ Clark Kent, who
is that his name?
Yeah, he's
that's pretty good. Yeah,
he's a frequent Jay-Z collaborator in the early days. He made a lot of beats for Jay-Z, and he was also friends with Biggie. And they were in a studio session, Clark Kent, Biggie Smalls. Clark Kent happened to play this beat, and Biggie was like, yo, what is that? Like, I need that beat right now. I need to rap on that for my next album. And Clark Kent said, oh, no, this is for Jay. This is for Jay-Z, sorry. Biggie said, man, why do you always give all the good beats to that guy? He doesn't even have an album out yet. Like, why are you holding out on me? And Clark Kent said, if you like it so much, why don't you come rap on the track? And he invited him to the next studio session with Jay-Z, and they made the song.
That's amazing. And are there, with Dr. Dre and Jay-Z, are there two hip hop artists that have more money than those two. Like they have all the money, don't they? Those well, and I guess Drake has a lot of money, but those two have all the money.
I may be wrong, but I think Kanye might be the richest out of all of
Really?
them. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it goes Kanye, Jay, Dre. I think Dre got screwed in the Beats by Dre deal.
That's what I was going to say. Didn't he sell it for like $1 billion or something?
Yeah, but Kanye's net worth is like $6 billion right now.
See, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z, he's got a lot of assets and he's got a lot of investments. I'm not sure if he's definitely more than Dre, but less than Kanye. And Drake is like the lowest of those guys,
Right,
in terms of net worth. He just doesn't have the business investments that they do.
And Jay-Z's got Rockefeller, doesn't it? That's his label, isn't it?
Yeah, so that actually brings me to talking about how Jay-Z got his career start.
Yep.
He was hustling, basically selling mixtapes, his first mixtapes and singles on CDs on the street out of the trunk of his car. And he did manage to get a label deal at the start, but he didn't feel like they were promoting him well enough. So he said, screw this, asked his friend Dame Dash if he wanted to just do it themselves. And then they founded Rockefeller Records in
Right.
94, 95.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically built a record label from the ground up with drug money. They funded it with selling crack.
Sure. Yeah. Is he still in control of that record label? Is he sold it on?
He may have a percentage, but he does not really do much in terms of running it. Maybe he's on the board and he's got some stakes, but day-to-day operations, I don't think he does much.
Well, obviously he's married to Beyonce, a woman well beyond his means. I like to say this when I think about people like Jay-Z. They once asked, do you know who Peter Crouch is?
Yeah.
They once asked Peter Crouch what would he be if he wasn't a footballer, and his response was a virgin.
That's good. That's good.
So I like to put Jay-Z in that category too, because I don't think he's a very good-looking man. I think if it wasn't for his success, I don't think Beyonce would be anywhere near him.
I don't think so either. No, if it wasn't for the tons of Grammy awards and the money and the fact that he owns a champagne company and the record label, it's tough to say that they'd still be together.
Yeah, he did well for himself. Yeah.
He sure did. Yeah, he sure did. Shout out Jay-Z for that one.
Yeah. I like to put him in the Peter Crouch sort of category of what he looks like compared to what who he's married to.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
And I've got one last fun fact
go for
you. Did you know that Jay-Z never writes any of his verses down? Ever?
Right. So he's
never once written a rap verse on paper.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So it's all memory.
It's all memory. He writes them in his head. And very quickly. Like, he's been known to do entire songs all in his head in 20 minutes. Yeah. And he did that when they were recording this song, Brooklyn's Finest. Clark Kent pulled up to the studio, gave the beat to Jay-Z, said, here you go. Why don't you get started on this? And then Clark Kent went back down the elevator to go outside and bring Biggie up from the car to surprise Jay-Z. By the time they got back up, Jay-Z already had the song done, the full song. And Clark Kent was like, oh, what are you doing? We've got Biggie here, like, to be on it. And Jay-Z was like, oh, my bad. Like, this is awesome. I didn't know that he was going to be on it. Walked back in the booth, Jay-Z redid the entire thing on the spot in 20 minutes. And then he came out of the booth and said, are you ready? To Biggie. He looked at him and said, are you ready to do it now? And Biggie Smalls is quoted as saying, what the fuck was that? What the fuck did you just do? Nah, I'm not ready. I need to take this shit home. You're crazy.
That's funny. Isn't that amazing? Like, I think Black Thought from The Roots is also sort of a really good rapper, just off the cuff sort of thing. It's amazing that people can do that. It's a skill that's beyond mortal men, I guess. Yeah. It's
not something that you can just to do it at that level, at the level Jay-Z and Black Thought are doing it at. It talent, natural talent. You can't learn how to do that. It's
No.
something truly special. And I always say that Jay-Z is one of those rappers who was born to rap because of his voice.
Yeah.
Just he has that perfect voice for rap. Same with Biggie Smalls. I also put him in that category.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real shame, and I guess this has been talked about to death. But it would have been interesting what Biggie Smalls' career would have been if he had lived a little bit longer.
Yeah, it really is an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah,
and it would have been cool to see what he and Jay-Z could have done together if they kept up this collaboration, really repping Brooklyn. They turned into really good friends after they made this, and who knows what other great songs like this we were robbed of, but I'm glad you enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, it was. It sort of comes back to that flexing more than the introspection that we listened to last week.
Yeah, and it's flexing is an important part of hip hop. It's just part of the culture and where the music stems from. And this song, this album, and Jay-Z in general, they've really contributed to that flex culture of
right.
Yeah, I'm a drug dealer. I'm a gangster, but I drink champagne out of diamond glasses, and I ride around in Lexuses and everything. So
yeah, no, it was really good. I like the song.
Cool. And Darren, what did you think?
Yeah, it was okay.
Cool. Thank you, Darren. All right, are you ready to get into some Happy Mondays?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted you to listen to the song specifically for the Manchester sound. This really is typical of what the Manchester sound started as, and the influence that it had on Blur. We listened to last week, Girls and Boys. Let me say, first off, the Happy Mondays got their name from a Boomtown Rats song called Tell Me Why I Don't Like Mondays. And then they went in and just called themselves the Happy Mondays because they just thought that was a kind of a funny sort of dig at the Boomtown Rats, which is an Irish band. So Step On is the song we're going to listen to, and this is not an original song. This is actually a cover. So we're actually going to listen to the original song, which is by John Congos, and it's actually called He's Gonna Step on You Again. So Darren, let's listen to the original. Let's listen to a few seconds of the original. Cool. So that's the original. So that's what the song is based on. It's a very different song. He's Going to Step on You Again is mostly about sort of white supremacy and how, the black man sort of, especially in like South Africa, which is, the song's recorded in the 70s. So South Africa obviously was going through its really bad apartheid. And it was sort of written about the equality of man, I'd say. And then we're going to listen to the club beat of that instead by Step On by the Happy Mondays. Darren, just hit play. All right. So, first question I have for you: do you get where Blur sort of got their sound from?
Yes and no. The club beat aspect, the dance aspect, that I picked up on.
Yeah,
that's about it, honestly.
Okay. What did you think of Step On, the cover version of this song?
I gotta be honest, I do not like this song.
Really? Okay.
It doesn't do anything for me. That's a lie. I like the guitar riff that plays through the whole song. That's really cool. I do like the guitar part.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. It's always faded into the background. Every time I've tried to listen, it's never really hooked me or felt distinct or I don't know what it is, but this song just hasn't left much of an impression on me other than that guitar riff.
So the Happy Mondays how do I describe the Happy Mondays? They're an interesting band. They're led by Sean Ryder, who's the lead singer of the Happy Mondays. And I can't think of a band where the music's all about drugs. It is literally, that's all the band were interested in, and that's what the band was about.
It kind of sounds like that. This song sounds like a meandering, lost, wandering drug trip.
Yeah. They bankrupted Factory Records, which was the record label that they were on. So Factory Records had to close because of the Happy Mondays.
That's hilarious.
So let me tell you the story. It's an amazing, amazing story. So this was their biggest hit. This was Happy Monday's biggest hit. They did a tour of this, and the guy who, even saying who was in charge of Factory Records is hard to say, because there's a guy called Tony Wilson, and when they asked him if he owned Factory Records, he goes, "I own Factory Records, I think." There was really no discernible structure. Factory Records also didn't sign bands. If the bands owned all the rights to the music, they could come and go. So when one of the reasons why they got bankrupted is because when they ran out of money, they couldn't sell anything because they didn't own anything. So, they made no money because the Happy Mondays bankrupted them. So go ahead.
Like, in the sense of, like, that's it. They let them dry, just trying to promote this band, but it never took, or...
No, it's even a better story than that. So Tony Wilson was the guy who gave all the money for Joy Division. So we listened to Joy Division early on. So he was the one that promoted Joy Division. I don't know if he was specifically their manager, but he was definitely the money behind it. Tony Wilson was a TV personality in Manchester. And then he started Factory Records, probably. And he signed, kind of, the Happy Mondays. And the Happy Mondays this was their biggest hit. Then he decided that they should record another album. And he wanted them to leave Manchester, and he thought that if they went to Barbados, that would be a really nice place to go. It's really quiet, sandy beaches, really island vibes, and he thought that that'd be a great place for them to go. What he didn't know was that Barbados was kind of like the crack cocaine capital of the islands, like Jamaica, Barbados. There was a crack epidemic going through Barbados. And within like 2 days, Sean Ryder was doing 50 crack balls a day.
Oh my God. That's excessive.
Yeah. And he actually went to Barbados to see what the hell was going on, because they were literally burning through money. And the money they were burning through was to buy drugs. And when he got there, they were getting the sofas out of the studios to sell them for drugs. Eddie Grant, who owned the studios, they stole and sold all the studio equipment so they could buy drugs. They cleaned out the studio and bought crack.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
And the masters were pretty much unusable. And then when they went home, Sean Ryder wouldn't give them the masters unless they gave him drugs and money. And he ended up selling back the masters to Factory Records for 50 quid and some drugs. But then when they played the masters, there was no vocals on them. So they then had to pay Sean Ryder to sing on the track. So and they spent so much money on this record that they went bankrupt. They spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on this record, and it bankrupted the label.
And this would be the record after the one
after the one is on. Yes, I think it's called Please Stop. I've bought this record. It's unlistenable. Like you cannot listen to it. It is meandering bullshit.
I'm so curious though. Like I'm going to listen to it when we're finished recording just to see
Sure.
what their crack-addled brains came up with, because
Yeah.
that sounds like something worth doing. I don't know.
Well, there was a member of the band of the Happy Mondays called Bez. Bez's role in the band was to be the vibes guy. He didn't play an instrument. He didn't sing. He occasionally played the maracas. His job was to dance on stage. That's it. That was his
Every
job. He was
band, every
yeah,
band should have a vibes guy.
yeah. That was Bez. Yeah, he just danced. That's all he did.
This band sounds incredible.
Yeah. There was a club in Manchester called the Hacienda, which is where the Manchester scene, the Britpop scene, sort of started. And I was listening to an interview with Tony Wilson, and these guys came in and they wanted the DJ to play a song. And the DJ didn't want to play the song. And then they went to Tony Wilson to complain. And they said, we're your audience. We're the people. You should listen to us. And then Tony Wilson goes, well, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols once said, they asked him, was like, are you making money? Are you making music for the everyday man? And Johnny Rotten's response was, I've met the everyday man and he's an asshole. Now, I cleaned that up. That's not what he said. I cleaned that up.
We'll use our imagination then.
For the podcast. So yeah, that's not what Johnny Rotten said. That's the sanitized version of that saying. So Tony Wilson was an interesting character. He thought musicians should own all the rights to their music. He didn't own anything. He died recently. He died a few years ago. There's an amazing movie called 24-Hour Party People, which is about New Order. It's about the Happy Mondays. It's about Joy Division. It is an amazing, amazing movie. So I recommend that everyone who's listening to this podcast go see 24-Hour Party People if you can.
I think Tony Wilson, that's his name, right?
Yep.
I think he was so ahead of his time, and I have so much respect for this guy based on everything you've just said. It seems like he was very selfless and was more about just the music and fostering the culture than profit.
Yeah.
And maybe that was his downfall in allowing the Happy Mondays to bleed him dry on crack.
Mm-hmm. It's an amazing story. It really, and it's perfectly played in the movie. Like what they do in the movie is amazing.
I believe it, but it's very admirable. I think this Tony Wilson character seems like very altruistic reasons for being in the music industry.
Yeah.
And now independent music is bigger. There's more of a space for independent artists who aren't signed to major labels. It's possible to have an audience and still have control over your distribution and all of those aspects. Definitely more so than it was in the 90s and 80s.
Yeah, you needed a record label to get promoted and to make money. Yeah.
And while that's still the case to an extent now, of course, record labels are extremely powerful and still control the industry. I think Tony Wilson might be proud of what independent music looks like now, and he'd probably be able to run a pretty damn good label nowadays. A small label.
Yeah. Well, and again, he was like, Factory Records was kind of not co-owned because no one owned it, but it was New Order sort of were in on the label as well, and Tony Wilson owned the Hacienda Club, and New Order sort of owned the Hacienda Club. So there was this whole New Order, Joy Division, Tony Wilson scene that was going on in the early 90s in Manchester. Then they were the ones that promoted. Like there's a band called James that got really popular. There's a band, again, Happy Mondays from that scene. So the Happy Mondays are more of a vibe band than a technical band. It was all about listening to the music and is doing as many drugs as you possibly can.
Yeah, I'm sure if I was listening to this song Step On, if I was in the middle of like a ketamine binge, I'd probably like it way more than I've never tried ketamine. I can only imagine that it would make this song really good from what I've heard about it.
Yeah, but this song was so important in the British Manchester Britpop scene. This was the song. This was one of those songs that just really propelled it forward. And their biggest hit, probably not in England, but worldwide, this was their biggest hit.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Like I said, this song didn't leave much of an impression on me. Just the guitar, and I don't even really see its mainstream appeal, its commercial appeal.
Hmm.
But I said that about a few songs already in this '90s
Hmm.
segment of the podcast we're doing. So
Yeah,
maybe it was just a different time, and the idea of being mainstream and marketable and sounding commercial was just different back then.
yeah, the '90s was weird. Like it was almost like the a lawless, you know, place where things could get done, and as long as you had the right money and the right drugs and the right sound, you could really make a lot of money.
Yeah, so I guess I should stop thinking about uh, pop songs from the '90s and thinking like, oh, but where is the huge swelling chorus with maximalist production and lots
No.
of synths and just loud instruments? Yeah, that doesn't seem like what you needed to have to be on the radio back then. Not
Yeah.
like it is now.
So if we think about the '80s, the '80s was the era of synth because synths became really, really cheap, and you could, they used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a synth, and they're really big, and they lived in studios. Then the portable synth came out, and you could really make music cheaply, and so that '80s influenced the '90s, where you could make these dance beats for really, really cheap, and the drum machines evolved, and you could really make some interesting beats with drum machines and things like that. So that's really where the British sound sort of came out of. And then the Americans went the other way, and they went the grunge, the really hardcore, listening to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, the '70s more sound. So it's really the dichotomy of the two places is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You've painted a pretty clear. I like that word dichotomy. You've kind of illustrated that very clearly for me already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quite something, and uh, I'm curious to as we keep going along this '90s British music thread. I'm curious to see more of how this song influenced what came later, and
Yeah.
to get a bit more into that because yeah, I love that guitar riff. It's really good,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's just missing something for me this song, and hopefully with some more context, I'll be able to understand it better.
Well, Sean Ryder is still alive today. Surprisingly, he's still kicking. He recently put out a program on UFOs. He's a UFO believer. So that was his latest thing that I know of. That I don't think he's done much music. He didn't. He formed a band called the Black Grapes, and they had one album which I love. I love the Black Grapes. I like them so much better than the Happy Mondays. But that didn't last very long. Another funny story about Sean Ryder is after this whole thing happened, they were going to sign to a major record label. Can't remember which one it was. It might have been Virgin. And there was a little confusion of what happened, but right before they were going to sign the deal, he told everyone that he was going to go get KFC, which was code for I'm going to go get heroin. And he never came back, and so they never signed that major record label deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
This guy sounds like a wild card.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, Sean Ryder. See what you think of Please Stop, and I can't listen to it. But yeah, if you want to delve in, see if it piques your interest, yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna like it. I have a morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that's all it is for me.
Yeah, it's a crack album.
I
Yeah.
can't say I've ever heard a crack album to my knowledge, so I'm very curious.
Well, if you look at later Oasis albums, when after Wonderwall and that kind of stuff, when they started releasing later and later albums, their cocaine usage increased, and there's so many, and those later albums are so laden with layers. Because what happens when you, not that I'm speaking from experience, by the way, what happens when you do a lot of coke is you lose a bit of your hearing. So you just keep layering and layering and layering the music, where it just sounds so complicated. And one of the great things about early on Oasis is how simple they were. And that's one of the reasons why they couldn't sustain their success, is because they went up their own asses. The cocaine use was incredible. If you look at Noel Gallagher's career since, he's in a band called the High Flying Birds, which sounds like old Oasis. It's brilliant. Yeah, so heavy cocaine use is not a good thing.
Good to know. Public service announcement. Yeah,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
the kids know.
If you're going to do coke, just do it a little bit. Don't get too heavy into it.
Just get your toes wet.
Yeah.
Don't dive all the way in, especially not if you're making music and you want it to still
Yeah.
sound good.
Yeah. Darren, what did you think of the Happy Mondays?
Yeah, it didn't really do anything for me either.
I think you need to be on drugs and in the hacienda really to get the gist of the song.
Yeah, maybe if I could be in that setting, I would like it, but
Yeah.
yeah, not for me right now.
Well, let's get this out of the way. For next week, we're going to continue down this Manchester sound. We're going to listen to the Stone Roses. Have you ever heard of the Stone Roses?
Yes, that sounds familiar.
So you're going to listen to "Fool's Gold" by the Stone Roses. "Fool's Gold." This is a few years after the Happy Mondays. This probably the biggest band. How do I say this? Probably the most loved band that's ever come out of Manchester that had one very successful album, and that was it. But are loved and loved and loved in Manchester.
Cool. Yeah, the name definitely sounds familiar, and if they're that loved, I think I have a shot at liking it more than this one. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So "Fool's Gold" by the Stone Roses.
Awesome. And
what do you got for me?
For you? Yeah, for you next week, we're taking a bit of a break from our hip hop deep dive because I'm actually going to a concert this upcoming weekend.
Yep.
Do you remember when we did Julian Baker?
Yeah.
Relative Fiction.
Yeah.
She's touring with another artist, Angel Olsen, and a third artist, Sharon Van Etten. So for you, for next week, you're going to listen to Heart-Shaped Face by Angel Olsen.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Awesome. All right, let's get into This Week in Music History.
This Week in Music History.
We're in for a treat. We have two new songs that made it to number ones in 1973 and the year 2000. So that's good news. The first one we're going to listen to is "Touch Me in the Morning" by Diana Ross. Darren, do it.
Touch me in the morning, then just walk away.
What a voice, but another good example of why punk rock needed to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said.
And then in the year 2000, this one surprised me. Cisco with "Incomplete." I had no idea Cisco had another song other than the Thong Song, but he had another number one hit. Let's listen to the awful "Incomplete." Wow, that's truly terrible.
I can't even keep a straight face.
Why do people like that stuff? I have no idea. It's so bad.
That had no redeeming qualities, I must be
None.
honest.
It is terrible. Don't listen to that kind of R&B is amazing. Don't listen to that R&B.
No.
It's so dishonest.
Soulless. It's soulless and vapid.
The Thong Song that was a million times better than that. But at least he was honest and talked about the fact that he likes thongs. At least that was honest. This is terrible.
Yeah. No doubt.
What are you up to for the rest of the week?
Trying to survive the heat.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my second tattoo on Thursday. That's exciting.
I didn't even know you had a first tattoo. What's your first tattoo?
Right now I have it's like a outline of a Ferrari on my right forearm. It's after the song by Frank Ocean called White Ferrari.
Okay.
So yeah,
I don't know if I ever picked up on the fact that you had a tattoo. And what are you getting now?
Now I'm getting. It's inspired by Kids See Ghosts, the album Kanye has with Kid Cudi. Mm-hmm. There's album artwork on there, and there's like this little ghost guy, and I'm getting that on my thigh above my knee with the word "free" next to it because that's one of the songs from the album that I really, really love. It means a lot to me.
I'm glad I never got any tattoos when I was in my 20s because I wanted to get a tattoo of the Canadian flag, but instead of the maple leaf, put a pot leaf.
Oh God.
So that was my idea. So I'm glad I never got that one. That would have been terrible.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's you would have regretted that one.
Yeah, right. That would have been awful. Yeah. How do you explain that one? Yeah.
I don't think you do. I think you just got to suck it up and get the
Yeah,
laser.
you just
removal.
go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's what I was into at the time, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Darren, what are you up to?
Just working, and video editing.
Cool. All right, let's get into our independent artists this week. This is another band that we've listened to before. This is called Monstera, and we're going to listen to a song called Sanity. I really love the laid back feel of this song. The lyrics are really, really honest, and I love the guitar solo on this song. So Monstera have a couple shows coming up pretty soon in Brisbane, so please go to the show notes if you live in Brisbane and you want to see them live. And the other good news is they have an EP coming out in September. I think it's September the 8th. The EP comes out, and they've promised us to they're going to let us feature the new single when the EP comes out. So we're really excited about that. And again, we love independent music. Please support your independent artists. Add as many independent artists you can to your playlists. That's the best way for them to make a little bit of money and support the arts. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Just Hit Play. To contact your hosts, Peter and Nick, or to be featured on an episode as musical talent, email justhitplay7300@gmail.com. Keep up to date with news and announcements by following on Instagram and Facebook, linked in the show notes. Subscribe on your favourite podcatcher to tune in next week for more Sonic delights. And if you can't wait till then, check out the Just Hit playlist on Spotify, linked in the show notes. A special thanks to Braden Munch for the theme song, and thank you for listening.